Frogman Friday.
Yeah, boy.
All right, guys, it's that time again. Welcome to the Frogman Friday show. Presented by Transcend, the best peptide and hormone therapy. They put your health first so you can live more and worry less. Go to transcendcompany.com/Birdman to begin your wellness transformation today. Today, our badass guest is Jeremiah Dinnell, aka JP. He served 11 and a half years as a Navy SEAL, exiting service as a petty officer first class. His work includes Echelon Front, Bruiser Arms, Little Cattle Co., and On the Path Printing. You can follow JP on all social channels, handles to follow the show. To learn more about JP, go check out echelonfront.com, littlecattle.co, and jpdinnell.com. Fast note, JP is heavily into BJJ, steak, podcasting, family, and is a triplet to two brothers, Jocko and Leif of Echelon Front. Brother, welcome to the show.
I'm like, wait, when you said triplet, I was like, whose bio did you switch over to? I have twin daughters, but what's up, man? How are you?
I'm good, man. It's so good to see you. It's everybody listening. So JP and I go way back. I was on, I believe, my second platoon, and JP was over at Assaults, and he was one of our instructors, and we just instantly clicked. And since then, we went out and I made a complete ass of myself dancing, and since then we've been buds. And it's amazing to have seen your trajectory, man, because I get fired up when I see guys get out and then find their path, and then they start truly exploding. And that is exactly what you've done. I think a lot of us in the teams have looked at you as that person who has really taken your life by the horns and said, you know what, it's hard getting out. The transition's tough, but I'm going to make something here, and I'm going to do just as well, if not better, than I did in the service. So it's good to see you, man.
Well, I appreciate those kind words. I remember that training trip, man. Dude, being at TRADE as an instructor was a great experience for me. I was a young man. You and I were young, when we were in the teams. When I was at TRADE running some of those blocks of training, I was 24 years old, 25 years old. And I remember when I first met you, when your group came through training, and you guys did awesome. And we went out, and I remember, I was like, bro, homeboy can dance. Like, what the hell? Like, what is going on? And because I've always liked dancing. I was, when I was younger, something that a lot of people don't know is I used to do a lot of swing dancing. Like the old school swing dancing. I actually took swing dancing lessons when I was in junior high and high school. My brother and I did it at a church. My mom, was like, "Hey, was that something you want to do?" Because we were all growing up. We always listened to oldies, right? It was either Christian music or oldies, and just that era of music, I just always loved. Right, just loved it. And there was a church by our house that had swing dancing lessons. I believe it was 2 nights a week. And so my brother Corey and we would go to that, and I really loved it. And but I could do that, swing dancing and country line dancing and two-step. I can do that. I can watch somebody do a dance and kind of then start moving around doing it, and then jump in and can do it. But the way you were dancing, I was like, that's on. And I didn't realize that you were a professional hip hop dancer, right? Am I exposing something you've never talked about, homie? Yes. Well, don't worry. That'll come up on my podcast.
Oh my gosh.
But it was, I just remember, I was like, oh, that's cool. And then, but the reason why I'm talking about that is the teams are so diverse. The SEAL teams are so diverse. And that's what I loved about the SEAL teams, was just all the different backgrounds and the diversity of the guys in the teams when it came to their skill sets, their backgrounds, their thoughts, their ideas. And for what I do at Echelon Front, we're a leadership consulting company. And one of our very large clients was, initially they had a valid concern. If you're judging somebody off of the cover of the book, they were like, hey, we just don't feel like your company is diverse enough to work with our large organization, diversity is a very important thing for us when it comes to how we get the job done. They weren't talking skin color, but they're like talking how you get the job done. However, she was judging us off of our skin color. Cool, no factor. And I understood her concern. And I remember having this conversation with her. And I said, hey, your concerns are valid if you're just judging us based off of how we look. And I said, which I know you're not. She might have, but I gave her the benefit of the doubt, and I gave it back to her like, hey, if you're going based off how we look, we're a small company. And this was 3.5 years ago. And, we were still really small. And I said, we're a small company, primary Navy SEALs. We have a few Marines. We're growing, we're expanding, but we do have women that work for us. We have female instructors. Jamie Cochran was an instructor at the time, who's now our chief operations officer. We had other guys that helped on the operations side of all the field training exercises that were diverse with their ethnicity, right, and their backgrounds and what they had. And so as I started talking to her, I said, oh, we have, boom, this person, this person, this person. She goes, oh, okay, cool. And I said, hey, just come join the training next time, which is funny is she had never once been to the training that we've been doing with our company for 3 years.
Wow.
But yet she was like, oh, so she comes out to the training and we didn't change anything. We don't do that. We just like, hey, we're going to do what we do. And it was awesome. At the very end of it, she was like, this is the most impactful training I've ever seen in regards to diversity and inclusion. She said, because when it came to formulating who was in leadership positions going on the runs, she goes, you didn't care about their title here. And I'm like, yeah, because their title doesn't matter to me. And nor should it matter when somebody has the ability to make decisions in an organization. They should be empowered with the knowledge, parameters, obviously parameters. You can make decisions within your parameters, but you also want people to be able to lead up and take stuff off their leadership's plate. And if there's a leadership void, step into that void. And she's like, yes, yeah, absolutely. I'm like, that's what we do. And so I had her a part of the day. She was shadowing with me, and then she brought her whole diversity and inclusion team through the training the next time we were there. And it was awesome, right? And I sat down with this lady, and she's brilliant. This lady is incredibly smart. And we were sitting down, and I told her, I'm like, hey, what was cool about the SEAL teams is it's very similar to like what you deal with. I'm like, there's a lot of different ideas. There's a lot of dynamic things going on. And, one of the things I learned from the teams is I'm surrounded by really smart people that want to win. And I was like, it's the same thing for your team. All the men and women that you work with, they're smart. They care and they want to win. But we all have different ideas of how to get to that finish line. And as long as we empower our people with the ability to go make decisions that helps us move forward and accomplish the wins, it doesn't really matter whose idea it was. Our ego wants us to say, well, no, it was my idea because I'm in charge. I said, but at the end of the day, I was like, if you can just give your team parameters, you give them the what, the why, you let them create the plan. You have alignment, obviously. They're not just running out there wild and free on their own, like you have alignment. And, I was like, when we would come up with plans in the military, I still had to get it approved by my leadership. It wasn't like we're just like, cool, hey, see you later, boss, we're running it off. He's like, all right, cool, let me know how it goes. No, like we had alignment. And, it was really cool to like explain to her that like what we had in the SEAL teams. Now, while if you're looking at it from like an ethnicity back thing, we're not very diverse in the SEAL teams. But and that doesn't matter. What matters is, are people empowered to make decisions, or do they care, right? And that's what I was explaining to her, and she was like, "Yep, no, I get it." And it was really cool. She goes, "Hey, I'm gonna be honest." She's like, "You changed the way I was thinking about this stuff," and she goes, "I really appreciate that." And it was just a great conversation. And anyway, I know I went down a rabbit hole, but it just, thinking about when we were out on that training trip in Louisville, Kentucky, down on 4th Street Live, and you're a professional. You were a professional hip hop dancer, and now you're in the SEAL teams. And then we have other guys who we know were good operators. They were college cheerleaders, right? And then you have guys that were, the football players that, like JJ Kelly, who still holds a record at UT for a 505 power clean. Like, what? You're unhuman. And then you have the Johnny Kims who come in and are just like unreal. And then you have other guys that we won't mention that you're like, I really wish you weren't a part of our community.
For sure.
There's the ebbs and flows in every organization. We definitely had them in the teams. But yeah, so from that training trip, I mean, you and I connected well. And I remember as your group was going through training, you and I still stay connected. I'd be like, hey man, what are you doing? You hanging out? We'd go hang out. You'd ride skateboards. I would watch, because if I step on a skateboard, I'm breaking my ankle. Go and grabbing some Vietnamese food off of Elkhorn Boulevard.
Yes.
Maybe after a heavy night of drinking, trying to
Indeed.
But,
yeah. You're right. I think that's a wonderful thing that you said. Everybody brings a flavor to the program, right? And in the teams specifically, yeah, I was a skateboarder. And so guys didn't judge that. They were like, you're a skateboarder? Okay, well, you better be good at it. I hope you're, yeah. And you're like, cool. And as long as you can keep the mission going and do your part for the mission, and it doesn't matter what you do extracurricular. And then, of course, I was like, all right, I got to get the platoon to come over and skate with me. And everybody's like, there's no way I'm going to go skateboard. And I was like, why not? And I'm like, because I'm an adult. And I'm like, okay, no. Let's not talk about you're an adult. You're scared. Let's go. And so we go. And then I have each one of them drop in, and all of them are falling on the ground and becoming soup sandwiches and total yard sales. But it's camaraderie. That's the building blocks of the teams, right? So, well, we touched on Echelon Front, but we'll dig back into that, because I don't know that there's a person on this earth that doesn't know about Echelon Front. So let's dig into some of your newer ventures that you got going on right now. Bruiser Arms. Tell us about Bruiser Arms. What is it? Why is it started? What does it do? What do we need to know?
Yeah, so you said that about Echelon Front and Jocko, but I mean, it's all tied back to what I do at Echelon Front. That's my number one focus. And there's actually a lot of people that don't know about Echelon Front or Jocko, or, it's funny. You and I think everybody knows about, but I'll be sitting on a plane and guys are like, hey, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I'm a chief training officer at a leadership consulting company. They're like, oh, cool. Like, how long have you been doing that? Oh, 7.5 years. Two of my buddies from the SEAL teams, Jocko Willink, Leif Babin, they brought me on board as the first instructor. They're like, oh, that's cool. Like, so what's their background? And I'm like, this is weird, I'm like, and it's all,
you don't know.
I'll throttle back, and then I explain to people, and they'll be like, oh, that's cool, sounds good. And I usually try to get their info and follow up to send them like, hey, this is what we do. If we could ever help your company, let us know. Or, hey, I'd love to learn more about what you do, because when I meet people on travel that own businesses or been in that industry for a while, I'm like, man, that's a wealth of knowledge. Like, I want to learn from that person. So yeah, but Bruiser Arms was started from Leif Babin for him, Jocko, and I to have like a training and gear company, because we get asked a lot at Echelon Front, like, what gear do you guys run? What type of training? Do you guys offer training? Well, no, Echelon Front's a leadership consulting company, but we all like to shoot. We all like gear. And so Leif created Bruiser Arms so that we could go shooting. We could acquire gear. We could put together gear packages. We could put together training packages, or it's like, and then we could, what we really also like want to do, like I'm headed down there, I think next week, I'm trying to figure out the date for Leif, myself, and two other guys that are down in that area with Leif that have helped out with some of the initial stuff of getting that company up and running. We're going to go do like a half day range at Staccato, their range. And, Staccato Arms are like those. I had never shot one until I went down with Leif recently. And I'm like, oh my goodness, there are levels to the game. This pistol is unreal. And, they're made in America, in Austin, Texas, which is pretty rad. But, the intent, Ryan, is if somebody wants to come get some training, we want to be able to provide it at a high level, whether it's us or somebody else that we know provides high level training that has alignment with the principles that we teach at Echelon Front. And, it's like, hey, we have a client, we have clients that invest heavily into their leadership development, and, they do the field training exercises with us. That's the department that I've built and grown. It's all of our hands-on scenario-based leadership training. That's the training that lady came out to, and I was like, oh, this is incredible. Like, you have that, literally, you have a low-level person who's the officer in charge over a union president. Like, it was really cool seeing that dynamic of the training. So a lot of people invest heavily into that, and they're like, cool. Hey, but we want something else. Not that that wasn't good, but as you know, with some companies that have larger budgets and they're larger teams, they're like, hey, we want experiences. Well, that's experiential leadership training. And they're like, that's great. We're using those principles. Now we want to go shoot actual guns. And for us, we were always like, we don't do that. And I would try to connect people with other buddies that did that, but sometimes those connections would just fall through. And or the person on the other side, nothing against them, they didn't really know how to run a business properly, and they wouldn't follow up with people. And I was just like, all right. And so Leif was like, no, let's control this. Let's make it to where they're still within our ecosystem. They're still our clients that we're taking care of, that we're servicing, that we're building relationships with. And when we're on the shooting range, we can sit there and let's say you and I are putting together a long range shooting course. And you and I are doing the instruction, and Leif's there, and Leif's sitting talking with the CEO about some current, a real time problem that he has going on with, I don't know, somebody else that's there, right? But they're separated, and you and I are working with his chief operations officer, and we're getting, him or her dialed in for, their 1,000-yard shot, and we're helping them understand the windage and the elevation and how to use a kestrel, and we're showing them all the spotting stuff. And then you and I are over there doing the fun, cool, sexy stuff. And Leif's talking with the CEO, role playing, hey man, here's a conversation you need to have. And role playing how to have the hard conversation and how to take ownership, and how, hey, cool, your COOs have been making these mistakes. Well, you're the CEO. How do you find a way to make it your fault? How do you take ownership over that? Because that's not natural. A lot of people don't want to do that because that sucks. It's just easier to blame people. So the intent with Bruiser Arms is to provide just a different arm of experience, fun, skill sets. And then also let's say someone's like, hey Ryan, what sniper rifle did you and JP shoot? And we're like, well, this is the one that we shot. Man, that's cool. I want to learn on that. We're like, well, we have a training gun for you to use. And they're like, cool, I want to buy that. We're like, cool, well, guess what? Boom, open up Pelican case, and it's there. Right. And so now it's well, that's what we sell. We have these, you have these rifles. And so it's putting together full kits of hey, here's the guns we shot. Here's the guns we shoot. Here's so putting together just packages for people just to just, I don't know, just build a community around, shooting, fellowship, leadership, just the things that we enjoy. And also the intent is, bro, if I can help employ some of our brothers that have awesome skill sets, why would I not want to do that?
Yeah, dreams. That's the dream, right? Work with your brothers again and help them on their journey. That's amazing. I love that idea. And the experiential thing I've learned over the years is great. It's a big thing. So it's more for you guys would be more consistency with your clients, being able to do this, bring them out to the field, do some experiential things. Because again, that goes back to it builds the bonds, which is awesome. People get to test their skill sets, and they get to learn about themselves too. So that's really cool. And everybody loves a kit. I mean, we are gear guys. So anytime you can put a new kit on, and I've been asked several times, hey, what did you use? What did you run? And I'm like, well, I mean, that was years ago, so it's outdated for what's new and current, but this is what I used to run. Well, I don't care what's new and current. I want to use what Birdman's using, or I want to use what JP's using. It's roger that. Okay,
roger that. Yeah, it's funny. I took a long range shooting course this last weekend with my son, my buddy Tony Cowden, Green Beret, sniper, dude's a stud. We met in March of 2017. Teaching shooting together, stayed in contact. Guy has some crazy stories of what he's been able to do over the years as a Green Beret, as a CIA contractor, and now with what he does for his current training company. And he's still in the reserve, so he's still active with these guys, and it's just incredible. He's just still getting after it. And so he was doing a course in our area. It's down at Ennis. You know where Ennis is?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it was down there. He had access to a range. He had a relationship with some guys down there. And so I was able to take my son, Aiden, that you met years ago when we came by your office.
Did the wind tunnel.
Yes. Yeah. And it was really cool to be able to just go shoot for me, just to shoot. I didn't have to instruct. I didn't have to do anything. I was just a dad with my son shooting. And, and that's why people were like, why would you're a sniper. Why would you pay another sniper to teach you and your son shooting? I'm like, because he's a really good instructor. He does this all the time. He's current in this is what the guy does. And he's a better shot than me, and he's a better instructor. Just because I had a bunch of kills as a sniper doesn't mean I'm a better sniper than people or a better shot. Right place, right time. I was in the right place, the right time, a lot of times in body. But outside of that, that doesn't mean I'm a better shot than you. It doesn't mean I'm a better instructor than you. And it's funny when I tell people that, they're like, they're not expecting that. They're not expecting that response. I'm like, I was just literally in the right spot at the right time, and I was just doing my job. Tony is a much better shot than me. Tony is a much better instructor than me. I'm not saying I'm bad at those things, but that's what the guy does. I would hope a guy that does it multiple times a week would be better than me, who opens his long range rifle case once every 2 years. You know what I mean? Like, I would really hope.
Currency is key, man. And, another fact, your dad, right? So there's that inherent thing of, I'm your dad, you're my son. This is when I teach you, I'm coming from a place of love. Maybe the kid doesn't see it exactly like that all the time. Yep. But that's awesome. I mean, I've realized since getting out and guys asking me to take them shooting, and I'm like, man, I'm not that good. And that's not what I do. But I'm like, I can't even do this anymore because I'm not giving a bad reputation to the SEAL teams because of my lack of doing this job. So
Dude, that's funny. Yeah, what's funny is like, but you and I, we feel that way and we say that and we judge it based off of the only I don't know about you, but when I judge myself, it's based off of when I was at my peak. When I was beating the instructors at Shaw's on their shooting drills. That's what I think back to. And I'm like, well, yeah, I was also building up the marksmanship cell, going and shooting every day, going to shooting classes all the time, and got myself to the point where I would literally be able to outshoot the instructors at Shaw's on most of those drills consistently. And that's what I think back. And now if I was to go run one of those operator standard tests, like, bro, it would have to be a day of dry reps for me to even get close to that speed again. But again, where you and I are at when it comes to that stuff right now, it's a pretty legit baseline compared to most people. And that's what they see and they recognize,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I applaud you for when you say go to the range, and I may not be as good now, but I'm still going to go to the range. Like, I don't do that anymore. Like, I'll go to the range for fun for me, but I'm not going to go test my skill sets against awesome shooters because I know that I'm just going to get let down.
I just do a lot of dry fire at home before I go to the range. It's repetition, and you got to be intentional with your reps. Dry fire, and the only thing that dry firing doesn't replicate is the recoil of a weapon. There's a few other small things, but nothing that's like, and and one of the things I learned is, and I know you know this as well, is practice doesn't make perfect. It makes it permanent. And so we have to be intentional with what we practice and how we practice. And so if I can get 25 reps in a day, which takes me no time of just a draw with my pistol, like if I'm going to conceal carry a pistol, I want that draw to be smooth. And it's like, okay, is it in my fanny pack? Is it tucked in behind the fanny pack? Is it in a bag? Like, where is it at? And I'm just trying to get like repetition. So I remember and I can feel those touch points and just know, like, all right, cool. If it's in my fanny pack, I want my zippers on the fanny pack over the right side. So that way, when I'm grabbing with my left, I can feel the separation between the two. As I pull it, my finger comes right behind it, goes into that fanny pack. I get a decent open grip. I don't like to grip like that pulling from a fanny pack because the risk of pulling the trigger is, to me, it's not even worth it. And so what I'll do is I'll do like a duck grip, right? Where I grip the gun like that, pull it out, make sure there's no obstructions in that trigger, which there shouldn't be, but you still want to look because, hey, did I put a piece of gum in there? Was my chapstick in there? Was a pen in there, right? Like, we make mistakes. Cool, it's clear. Now I readjust. Now I can readjust my grip as I'm presenting. I don't need my finger on as I'm pulling here. Like, there's no need. Here, downrange, then make adjustments and shoot. well, I actually have to think about that and I have to take the time to shoot. And those are the things also that we're going to be doing with Bruiser Arms is just talking through things like that, where it's just like, hey, here's some ideas. Here's what you can do on your own. And, it's just bringing awareness of just the things that you and I have done for years without thinking about, is just being intentional with breaking that down. Like if you were to go jumping, you're like, bro, you're just going to go do it. If I was to go jumping, I would be a wreck. I would be an absolute dumpster fire wreck because the last time I shot was when we did that fundraiser for you.
Yeah.
Before I even lived in Texas.
Wow.
2017.
Amazing.
Yeah. And so, is that the last time I jumped? Yeah, I don't think I've jumped since then, because then shortly after that, Seth passed away from his skydiving accident, and I haven't jumped since. I've wanted to. I need to. I need to go jump again just to get that just out of my mind, but I haven't jumped since the jump I did for a year fundraiser.
We're going to do it then. So you've heard it here now. JP and I are going to go jump.
Said that out loud.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you know what? It's just falling, baby.
Okay.
It's just falling. That's all it is.
I love how you said that. It's like when I, for the Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu ministry that I'm a part of, and I help with this event called Pursuit. It's a men's ministry. I'd love to get you out to one, man. It would be huge. And for me, it was a game changer. I went in February of 2022. And it just exposed a lot of things that I didn't realize I needed to work through and just get rid of and submit to the Lord and get my heart right. And that's what you just said. It's just falling. It's one of the things I say. It's like, it's just eternity that we're talking about. No big deal, guys. And they're like, just eternity.
Well, this is awesome, man. Let's dig into Little Cattle Co. Tell me about this.
Yeah.
This I've been seeing a lot lately.
Yeah, man. I need to get you some beef. I failed to do that. I apologize. It's just Little Cattle Co. is a company. We're a Texas beef company. We're a steak company, and we do steak and ground beef. My best friend Steven started the company in 2017. Amanda and I, my wife, invested into it at the beginning of last year to help grow and expand the company, because he wasn't doing it was just literally like, hey, I'm getting these steers processed. Do you want a quarter or a half or full steer? And that's what it was. And he would make just enough money to cover his beef for the year for his family. So smart on him. And it was just, he wanted good quality beef for his family. And for me, I'm like, bro, heck yeah, that's awesome. And the quality of the beef was unreal. And I remember I love ground beef because it's easy to cook. It's easy for meal prep, hamburgers. But every time I eat a hamburger, bro, I'm just like, oh, my stomach is just destroyed. And it sucks. And it's like, even like cooking ground beef with rice and green chilies for an easy, healthy meal prep that I love. I was like, good Lord, not worth it. And when I tried the beef from Little Cattle Co., I was like, oh, it tastes amazing. Noticeable difference in taste, noticeable difference. And it didn't hurt my stomach. And I was like, huh. And so I mentioned that, and he's like, oh, that's because the ground beef that you're getting isn't mixed with any other steers. It literally all comes from that one steer. There's no cross-contamination, no preservatives, no antibiotics, no hormones, none of that in these cows. They're grass-fed, grain-finished out in Abilene, Texas. His uncle, we call him Uncle Rocky, he's been ranching and cowboying for over 30 years in Texas. So he has all the relationships. That's what he does. And that's how we had access to those steers. And Stephen was like, explaining to me that. I'm like, dude, that's awesome. If you ever want to expand it, let me know. Like, we could, build a website and, sell individual cuts and actually have an a la carte beef option for people. So that's what we do at Little Cattle Co. And our website, like you said earlier, is just littlecattle.co. And you could go on there and just order a tomahawk, or you could go on there and say, hey, I want 5 pounds of ground beef and 2 sirloins. You could do that. We also have beef tallow products now. We have a body butter that's targeted towards women, but it's for men and women. It's so let's just say you went and got sunburnt. I don't wear sunscreen because I get burnt no matter what, whether I put it on or not. And I'm like, so why am I putting these chemicals on me, right? I'm Irish and Swedish and Scottish. I'm not known for tanning, okay? But what's crazy is since I've been using our beef tallow, I put that on my skin after I'm out in the sun. I don't peel. I don't, you know what I mean? I might be red, but I don't peel. And so I'm like, oh, it's a really good skincare product. And so we have these we have this body butter and a beef tallow product and a lip gloss that we can use, that men and women can use. So that's just a little diversification of the business that we just launched, which has been really cool. To see that we have a ground beef subscription. So if it's somebody wants 10, 15, 20 pounds of ground beef every month, you want it on auto ship, we created that ground beef subscription plan. We're probably going to switch it to where it's 10, 20 or 30 pounds because I mean, people are like, they love the ground beef. When they notice the difference of taste, they're like, oh, the taste and quality it's unreal. The thing that's kind of, when people understand this, they're like, oh, this is horrible. This is disgusting. If you go get ground beef at the store, whether it's a high-end place like Central Market or HEB or what was it, Whole Foods or Kroger or Sam's Club or Costco, any of those variants, the ground beef that you go and get from those places is going to have anywhere between 300 to 400 different steers mixed together to create that ground beef, up to 1,000. So if you're getting your ground beef from like Walmart or like a grocery store, it's probably close to 1,000 because they're getting the lower quality ground beef. And guess what? It's full of preservatives and all these other things. Dye. They'll put food dye in there to make it still look red. But when you cut it open, you're like, oh, it's kind of brown on the inside. Yeah, that's a bad thing. And so our ground beef isn't mixed at all. Even we're a small company, man. Like we're just now breaking even. We've been losing money every month, but that's part of business. You know that, right? Like, hey, we're like, that's just part of it. Now we're like, our volume's starting to increase. We've adjusted some of the products. We now have the beef tallow. So I think this month we're actually going to break even, which I'm like, yes, that's awesome. No more losing money. We can now make money one day. And for any entrepreneur that's listening, you're probably laughing going, yep, I remember my first year of business. Or somebody that's now new to start a business is going to be like, wait, what? Yeah, you're probably, just putting that out there. You should make sure that you're prepared to lose money until you can, not for every business, but I'm sure you've experienced that, Ryan, where all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait, I just thought everybody was going to be on board and do this with me. Nope. Okay.
Yeah. No question about it.
Yeah. It's just part of it, man. It's fun, man. It's been a blessing. It's been really cool. We dedicated the business to God when we all started. We got a warehouse space in Argyle where we fulfill all of our orders. We have local pickup so people can come pick up. We ship out every Monday, sometimes Tuesday, depending on how many orders that we have. It's all 2-day shipping anywhere in the lower 48. And it's been awesome. But yeah, the difference in the quality of the beef is unreal. We've cooked them at events where, one of the FTXs that we were running, it was a higher end FTX, and the client's like, hey, we want high end meals. I said, well, my wife has a catering business and I'm a part owner of a beef company. And the guy's like, I know, that's what we want. And I'm like, okay. I was like, I'm staying out of this because you're my Echelon Front client. I'm like, but if you want to have this conversation, talk to my wife and Steven. And they facilitated everything. And the guy wanted like sirloin and ground beef taco bar every day. So we did that. And Leif ended up coming up for that. And there's a few other people that literally thought our sirloins were ribeyes. Like that. I'm telling you, the quality, it's unreal, man. The quality is because of how Uncle Rocky and them raise and treat the animals and how they're processed as well. So it's pretty cool to be a part of it. It's been really cool learning about this industry and the ag business and like just here in Texas, like how supportive people are. It's incredible, man. Like, and the other thing, Ryan, that was really impressive to me that really caught me off guard is when I started the business and when I partnered and we started doing what we're doing and I was promoting on social media, talked about it on Jocko's podcast and a few other podcasts, the amount of other small beef companies that reached out and said, hey, if there's anything we can do to help, let us know. It's us versus the big guys. there's enough customers out there for all of us. We're not worried. And I was like, wow, that's incredible. You know, it's the same thing that we feel at Echelon Front. People are like, oh, I heard these other guys are doing this leadership stuff. Cool. The world needs leadership more than ever right now. Like, we can't service them all as long as they're getting decent instruction. Like, that's all we care about. Like, we want everybody to win. It's the same thing that you do with your foundations. You know, oh, there's another foundation. Cool. I hope God blesses them just like they have blessed us, because their foundation is helping veterans and their families and first responders. We need more of that. And so it's been cool to have that mindset with Little Calico, and just to help grow the company and to see the expansion. It's been really cool. It's humbling at times where you're like, oh, I thought I knew the answers to this, and no, you don't. And so I'm just reaching out to other people that are successful in business. Like, hey man, I'm having this issue. What should I do? Hey, I had the same issue when my first year of business. This is what we're doing. Hey, read this book, implement this system. This is what we did, and we're now doing 20 million a year. Cool. I'm gonna go read that book. I'm gonna call you in a week and ask for questions. And it's just been it's been a really cool opportunity, man, to grow.
Dude, that's amazing. That is amazing.
Humbling at times when you're like, oh, okay, we're gonna have to make some adjustments.
Dude, you have so much going on. We've gone through just an nth of what you are doing right now. And I want to talk at the end of this about how you keep it all together, but I want to jump into the next piece right here, which is on the path printing. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I still have it technically, an apparel company called Never Settle Apparel. And you remember that from back in the day. And that was created when I transitioned from doing sales at a financial company. I was doing my own training consulting type of deal. I hadn't come on board with Echelon Front yet. I was teaching shooting, and my thing was Never Settle Consulting. And I created apparel because a few people were like, oh, do you have shirts? I'm like, no. But my best friend, Danny Ziem, who now works for us at Echelon Front. He's a firefighter. So he had a printing company, and I was like, cool. So he helped me get an apparel line up and running. And that was a pure blessing from God, because I would be selling those shirts at MMA fight shows and jiu-jitsu tournaments. I would just go there and set up a table and literally be selling shirts. And it's how I would make my truck payment and my rent and everything else like that. Because we went through a time where I left that financial company to do some other stuff, made some bad decisions, made some bad handshake deals with other team guys and other business guys that I thought had my best interest, and screwed me over for tens of thousands of dollars, and ended up where I had no money. And I put my family in that position where we literally had 17 cents in our bank account one time total. And
I remember that.
Yeah. And it was just like, okay. And the Never Settle Apparel was a blessing from God, because I would literally go sling t-shirts at fight shows and jiu-jitsu tournaments and sell them online. And it would always just cover just enough of what we needed. And I'm like, God always provides, man. You have to put in the work. You know what I mean? Like, you got to put in the work, but God's going to give you opportunities. And I was going door to door, knocking on people's doors saying, hey, would you like your address spray painted on the front curb of your house so first responders can easily see it? Like, doing that, doing construction from our landlord to offset the rent. And it just delivering pizzas, bro. I used to deliver for Marco's Pizza. I don't know if you knew that, but yeah, I used to deliver pizzas for Marco's Pizza because I needed money for my family. I needed to pay my bills. I needed to put groceries in the fridge, and so I'll never forget those days. That hat from Marco's Pizza sits in my closet. When I walk into my closet at my house, it's the first thing that I see, because it's just a reminder of like, hey, don't forget where you came, bro. And then in my
also don't forget what you did for your family. That's a huge thing, bro. Like,
I'll do anything.
Hats off to you, man. I don't want to just glance over that. Like, hats off to you, man, because not everybody is put in a position where they have to do stuff like that, and to step up and do it, because that it's what has to happen. And I applaud you, man. It's badass.
Thank you. I remember one time I got done delivering pizzas. It was like 1 a.m. and he's like, hey man, you can go. And I'm like, no, I'll stay and help clean up. He's like, bro. And it was my buddy who owned the place, Lee Smith. And he knew my background. He knew what I did, what I used to do. Nobody else there did. And because it was funny, guys were like, man, I don't know, that's a really dangerous area for him to go deliver pizzas in. And he's like, I think he'll be okay.
True.
It's going to be okay because it was up in the hood of Memphis. And we didn't deliver there normally. And he's like, hey, you want this? I'm like, sure, I'll do it. I don't care. Tack it on to the other trip. And he was always like, you carrying or you need me? I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm good, homie. He's like, okay. I just want to make sure I have one in my truck if you want it. Super awesome guy. Like the guy was awesome, really good friend. And so anyways, I'm like, no, I could use the extra hour of work. And he goes, okay, we're talking not delivering, but making $6.15 for an extra hour of. And so I was just there to clean, and I was just cleaning up the back, and I was doing dishes and trying to unclog a sink because these younger kids that worked there thought you could just put all the food and stuff down in the sink, not understanding that it wasn't a garbage disposal. And those lines were getting, say, hey, clean off the plates in the garbage can, then rinse them off, and then put it. Okay, cool. And I remember sitting there, and I'm like pissed off at these kids, and I'm like recognizing nobody had taught them this. I could be pissed off at them and frustrated, but then I also recognize, like, all right, I'll cool. I'm just. And I remember giving the feedback to Lee. I'm like, hey, these kids haven't been taught, and I can teach them how to do these things if you want. And him going, I appreciate it, but I'll do that. Thank you. I got that. But it was just a really cool, like, I could be pissed off at them, but then also, like, they don't know the difference, so they're doing what they think they should. And so I'm like literally up past my elbows and just disgusting sink water, bro. Just that's like pepperonis and just gross water floating, right? And I'm just like, just in there, like just trying to dig everything out and just like clean it out. And I get done, and bro, that stuff is disgusting to me. I don't like dirty sink water. It's for whatever reason, but hey, it's work. I've got to make money for my family. And I remember rinsing off my arms of just like literally looked like vomit on me because that's how dirty the water was. So I'm like cleaning it off, and then I'm like washing my arms. And I remember just having this thought. I'm like, bro, at one point you were one of the most highly decorated E5s in the SEAL teams, and now you're cleaning the drains out at Marco's Pizza. What are you going to do with your life, man? And this was also right at the moment where I just had this opportunity to come see what Jocko and Leif were doing with Echelon Front. And I was like, okay. And I remember going home that night, and I walked into the house, and Amanda was laying down with the girls because we were divorced for a year, got our marriage back together, and she moved in where I had moved out to. And so now we have all of us in a small 2-bedroom house in Mississippi. And Aiden's in his bed. We had a queen size mattress on the floor for the girls, and Amanda's laying in between them, and she's asleep with both the girls next to her. Aiden's in his bed, and I'm just looking at them. And I just remember like looking in there at them going, I've got to do something. Like I cannot ruin this opportunity with Echelon Front. God's given me a lot of grace that I don't deserve. He's given me a second chance. Like I've got to get to work, man. And I just got super focused on everything with Echelon Front, with Never Settle, because there was another thing that I could do. Like I could actually generate like revenue through that. And so I kept doing all that. I was doing all those things I said, but my main focus was Echelon Front. I was listening to podcasts, was reading books, was studying leadership and business and people, and just trying to be a better human, right? Getting into the Bible every single day. And, just because what we teach at Echelon Front, if you look at it, they're biblical principles also. So I was really trying to get in the Bible, read different leadership books, and study, and got super hyper focused. And so Never Settle, I was growing and expanding that, and I really liked the apparel portion of it. Well, fast forward a few years, my buddy Will Tate has an apparel printing company. Danny sold his, so I stopped doing all the Never Settle stuff. My buddy Will has it. He's like, hey man, he's like, I'm going to get rid of all my equipment. Do you want it? And I'm like, yes. But then I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with it though. Let me, get back to you. Well, I never follow up with him. He reaches out to my best friend, Josh, who we all were connected through Pursuit, Walking in Truth Ministries, and Jiu-Jitsu. So he's talking to Josh about it. And Josh is like, I'll take it. And Josh takes it and puts it in storage. And so Josh and I were talking. I was like, yeah, I got to follow with Will. He's like, I got all this gear. I'm like, wait, hold on. And so I was like, bro, do you want to do this together? I was like, hey, if you want to do it on your own, do it on your own. He's like, no, I would love to do it. That's why I'm talking to you. He's like, you idiot. He goes, I want to do it with you. I'm like, cool. So we started On the Path printing so that we can do apparel for and now our main focus. I was like, let's get alignment. Why are we doing this? What do we want to do? Because he owns Total Fitness Kickboxing. They have a location in the Colony and in Denton. So he runs Total Fitness Kickboxing. He's helping out with all the stuff at Echelon Front, is now getting hired on full time at Echelon Front on the operations team to help support all of our operations for our big events and our FTXs. But he's able to do that because he's built out his teams at Total Fitness Kickboxing using the principles we teach at Echelon Front, to where he's like, cool, my business doesn't need me. That's the goal, right? That's like, so let's just say you build your business up to a point where you're like, hey, you know what? I want to go skateboard with my kids all day. I'm going to invite JP and his kids to come over, and we're going to make fun of JP because he won't get on a skateboard. But you could go do that, and your businesses are still making money that provides for your family. That's the goal. He's been able to do that. And so now he works with us at Echelon Front, and we have On the Path printing. The purpose of On the Path printing was to help foundations, charities, and small businesses that have apparel needs and desires that it's just hard for them to work with other companies because it's like, nope, we need this much volume, you need this, this, and this. And so we figured if we do that, the other stuff will come. Like, and if we can grow and scale the business, awesome. If not, then it's cool. Like, we have people that are going to be doing the printing, and everyone's like, wait, you're going to be printing t-shirts? I'm like, no, I'm not. Now, initially, part of the printing, yes, Josh and I have been printing t-shirts to understand the process, create SOPs, to create training manuals and things for the guys that and gals that will be printing for us. But yeah, so that's what we do. So like, the next time you're going to go do like a big, fundraiser jump or whatever, and you're like, hey man, we need, shirts. Cool. We can do them for cost, or hey, maybe at that point we can just donate them, depending on where we're at as a business. That's what we want to be able to do. Like Mama Lee, like she's like, let me know when you're ready. And we're testing next week. Actually, we're printing some test runs for Mama Lee, and we're going to send them to her. And if she likes it, then she's going to place an order with us, and we're going to give her pricing that she can't get anywhere else.
Amazing.
So On the Path printing, and it's cool because we're just on Instagram and just word of mouth. So if people reach out to us on Instagram, send us a message, then we can say, yep, we can do it. Or, hey, no, we can't. Here's some other companies we know that can probably take care of you. It allows us to choose who we want to work with. And the thing is, like, hey, if you're on the path, meaning the path, which we all know the path that we're talking about, just being a good human, that's who we want to support. And that's the intent behind it, man.
That's awesome. Well, I'll tell you this. You just signed up. Cool. You just signed up a client, because I'm definitely in need for multiple companies. So I'm going to be talking to you offline after this, and we'll get the word out for sure. And all of your socials, everything will be on this. So you'll be able to reach out to JP through these socials, be able to connect with these different companies when you're ready to make your purchases. Hint, hint. So,
or just, we just want to help people, man. That's the thing. Bro, here's the deal. Are we gonna make money? For sure. Are there any times we make no money? Yeah, we know that. And that's our way of giving back. Like, there's a ministry. We're not gonna make any money off the ministry. That's our way of giving back to the ministry. Is like, cool, here's our cost. Our labor is gonna be free, but here's the cost of the materials. They're not getting that from anywhere. And so if they get it at that price point and they sell it for normal, that's increased revenue to the ministry so that they can help sponsor people to go to their events and provide, meals and all these things that this ministry does. That's what we're able to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good for you, man.
It'll be cool. It'll be good.
Well, let's center this up to your frontside focus, the primary mission that you have, Echelon Front. So, man, you said people don't know about it, and let's let them in on what it is. So break it down.
Yeah, Cliff Notes version, Echelon Front. We are a leadership consulting company. Company is started by Jocko Willink, Leif Babin. We were all in the SEAL teams together. We were in Task Unit Bruiser. Jocko was our Task Unit commander. Leif was an officer in charge of Charlie Platoon. Seth was the officer in charge of Delta Platoon. I was in Delta Platoon. Opposite Chris Kyle, he was over in Charlie Platoon as a point man and lead sniper. and that's what I did in Delta Platoon. And, Mark Lee was in Charlie Platoon. Mikey Mansour was in Delta Platoon. Ryan Jobe was in Charlie Platoon. Those guys are our former teammates and our heroes. Mark Lee was the first Navy SEAL killed in Iraq on August 2nd, 2006. Mikey Mansour was killed on September 29th, 2006. Jumped on a grenade to save the other two guys that were on the rooftop with him. Was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. Ryan Jobe was wounded the same day Mark Lee was killed, shot in the face from an enemy sniper, caught a bunch of fragments. Some people are like, well, did he get shot in the face or did he shoot the buttstock? The buttstock that was next to his face was shot, with that round fragmented it, the round and the buttstock fragmented it into his face. Lost his vision, his sense of smell, his sense of taste, multiple surgeries. Completely blind, no sense of smell, no sense of taste, summited Mount Rainier, got his business degree with a 4.0 GPA, just a stud, man. Finds out him and Kelly are expecting a baby girl, goes in for his 22nd surgery and died after surgery due to complications, And then, Seth Stone was, died in September 30th, 2017, was doing a base jump, had a malfunction and burned in. Chris Kyle was murdered in February of 2013. And, our goal at Echelon Front is to pass on the lessons that we learn. Like if our mission statement is to pass on the lessons that we learned, to literally just to help people solve problems in their life through leadership. Because at the end of the day, leadership is the solution to whatever problem that you have. Leadership is the solution. And people get wrapped up with that. They're like, well, hold on, I'm not in a leadership position. They think title when it's leadership. But as you and I both know, and when I say this, people are like, oh yeah, leadership has nothing to do with the title. It's your ability to build relationships, to influence the people around you, to establish trust. That's what leadership is. And so if you can learn to communicate to people in a simple, clear, and concise manner, and to build trust, and to detach from your emotions and look at things big picture and empower the people around you to make decisions, that's leadership. And you don't need a title for that. Now, if you're in a leadership position and you're doing it, that's awesome. You can lead down, across, and you can also lead up the chain of command. So that's what we do at Echelon Front. We teach people how to lead. We teach them how to lead through the principles that Jocko and Leif wrote in Extreme Ownership. They wrote the book Extreme Ownership, How U.S. Navy SEALs Lead and Win. That came out in 2015. It was a New York Times #1 bestseller immediately. Stayed at the top of the charts for a very long time because it provides value. Because people would read the book and they're like, man, this is awesome. Hey, Fred, you should check out this book I just read. I got a lot of lessons from it. Or, hey, Ryan, man, this book reminds me of how you lead your company. You should check it out. And you're like, oh, man, dude, that's awesome. I've been doing this for the last 10 years. And then there's, or you might read it and be like, man, I've been doing a lot of these things. And, oof, man, I'm not doing these things. So it's just a book that provides value. They wrote Dichotomy of Leadership was the second book they wrote because it's like, hey, you should get a little balance, right? Because the problem with extreme ownership is everyone's like, oh, I'm going to be extreme about everything that I do. I'm going to take all the ownership. Well, you can take too much ownership. You can swing to the left or to the right for everything. The goal is to try to find balance. Here's the deal. You're never going to find balance. It's never going to happen. But if we're pursuing balance, then we're going to achieve excellence. And that's what we're teaching people is like, hey, use these principles to build relationships, to establish trust, to improve your communication, to remind you to detach from your emotions and think logically and assess like, hey, what's the actual problem? What do I need to be focused on right now? Like you and I were talking about before the call. It's like, all right, hey, what do I actually need to be focused on right now? Is it this or this? It's a binary thing, which is cool. Because when you detach from your emotions and you step back and you're like, okay, what's the most important thing I need to be doing right? Like yesterday, I was headed to go record an episode for my podcast. And actually, there's a bunch of Q&A sessions. Sorry. We do Q&A sessions that we put out throughout the week in addition to the podcast, just for our YouTube listeners and just to provide value, right? So I was headed to go do a bunch of those so we could have them in the bank. And I'm literally getting ready to leave, Ryan. And my daughter is walking down to the hammock that we have in our backyard. And she goes, hey, Dad, can you come push me in the hammock for a little bit? I'm literally leaving, And I sat there and I said, hold 1 second, baby. I didn't say no. I didn't say yes. I said 1 second because I had to think, do I have the time to go do this? And I recognized, yes, I absolutely have the time and I should make the time to go. My daughter wants me to spend some one-on-one time with her, pushing her in a hammock. Like, what else do I need to be doing at that moment? Especially, you know how much I travel. I'm in sometimes 3 to 5 cities a week. I'm gone a lot.
Yeah.
But that comes with building the business. I'm on the executive leadership team at Echelon Front. I'm our chief training officer. That comes a lot of travel. It comes a lot of work for now. But I'm starting to throttle back, which is awesome because I have teams in place and the business is growing where I don't have to be gone as much. And so I said, yep. I text Lucas and I walked down there and I just sat and I was just like pushing her in the hammock and I'm asking her about her day and her week and, you know, about church and like all these things, you know, just sitting and talking. And, you know, it was awesome. Like I have twin daughters that are 12 and it was like this beautiful breeze and she's in the hammock and I'm like pushing her back and forth. And dude, she like just closed her eyes and wrapped up in the hammock and was just like, just silent. And she was at peace. And I'm like, man, I'm so glad I didn't leave because that moment of like looking at my daughter just as she was closing her eyes, just relaxed, was like, I need to be providing that for her. You know, and so it's just, you know, Echelon Front teaches leadership, but I mean, we're teaching people how to be better humans. And I get to implement those things into my life. And hey, I also fail at implementing these things into my life. Like I struggle with the detachment part because I'm an emotional, passionate person, and my default tendency is to be like, oh, not. But the more I do it, the more intentional I am. I'm like, all right, cool, chill out. Like, you know, I had an issue with, you know, a business thing the other day I was telling you about. And my initial response was not the right response. And I know that. And I was just like, all right, cool. So I typed up what I wanted to and then reframed the message. And it was it was a very different message, which ultimately at the end of the day, that's what needed to be conveyed to this individual. I didn't need to yell. I didn't need to insult. That usually doesn't do much, right? For the most part, big picture, if you look at it, you know, losing your temper doesn't tend to provide the solutions that we want most of the time. Strategically, most of the time doesn't work out. And, you know, so that's what we teach at Echelon Front. We teach people how to develop training programs based around these principles. We have an online leadership training program that somebody can be a part of where they can watch videos, take tests, progress along, have access every Monday to Jocko and Leif and the rest of the team on Zoom on these live trainings. We have in-person events that you can come sign up for. Like I'm doing one next Tuesday here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in Flower Mound. We do events called The Muster. It's a 2-day leadership event with Jocko, Leif, and the whole team. It's 2 full days with the whole team. I know you're a busy man. We have a muster coming up in October in DFW. I got you if you want to come check it out. Or just come say hi to Jocko and Leif. The guys would love to see you. But if it was one of those things, you're like, bro, I'd love to bring my wife. I got you. You know what I mean? Like that's what people like. People bring their businesses. They bring their teams, they bring their spouses, they bring their kids. It's awesome, you know, because it's something that I think we can all agree upon. The world needs leadership more than ever right now. This nation needs leadership more than ever right now. And if we're not going to do something about it, who is? It's not going to happen. So we have to be proactive. We have to go out there. And so if someone if they were just to go to echelonfront.com, so that's ECHELON front.com and just click on events, you'll see all the things. I mean, we do battlefield reviews at Gettysburg and, you know, different areas. We have this event called the Council where it's a high level, you know, so we do all these cool different things just to show leadership lessons and how they tie into what we do. The experiential leadership training that we run, it's all hands-on scenario based. So it's like, Ryan, you want to bring your team out and run them through a day of training? Well, what we do, it's like, cool, we have these high-speed laser tag systems where, you know, we're going to say, all right, Ryan, you're the officer in charge. And hey, Greg, you're the you're the AOIC, and Matt and Mark, you're the platoon command, you're the platoon chiefs. We have different structure that we put people into, and we give them an intel package. They plan the mission, and then you go run your mission with these laser tag systems against our role players. And the role players are former and current SEALs, Green Berets, Rangers, MARSOC guys, SWAT guys that are your opposition force. And it's not a tactical thing. It's literally leadership training. So they're running the scenarios to drive the leadership principles that we teach. It's literally to drive the principles that we teach, so that when we come back from mission, we can sit down and say, all right, hey, what'd you learn? What'd you take away from that? And you're sitting there and you're like, man, I thought my communication was simple. I thought I had a good plan, but I failed to get a read back. I had zero alignment with my team. And once we went out there and JP shot me in the face and I was no longer able to talk, nobody knew what to do because I wasn't directing all the movement. I need to be more decentralized with my planning. I need to let my squad leaders and fire team leaders create the plans so that they can execute the plan. And I need to maintain alignment with my task unit commander. And I'm like, hey, Ryan, that's a great point. That's literally everything that I saw as well. How does that apply to your business? And then you're sitting there and you're like, well, until you said that, I never thought of that. And as I'm thinking about it, I just realized that I literally dictate every single meeting that we have at work. I run the meetings. I drive the meetings. I follow up. I do everything with the meetings. And that's why my people don't talk. They don't create ideas because I dictate all the ideas. I'm like, all right. So with that being said, Ryan, don't worry. Everybody does these same things. We all have these same problems. What's one thing that you could change tomorrow when you go back to work to help drive some ownership to your people and detach from that? And you'd be like, well, and so we're doing literally problem solving after the runs. You have this workbook that you're capturing all this stuff, all of our debrief points, all of your plans of actions, so that now when you go back to work, whether you were there by yourself or you brought your team, or we did it specifically for your company, because we do corporate FTXs where we can come and work with just a company by themselves, whether it's one day or however many days you want. We can do that. We have one company, we put 1,800 people through the training so far. I mean, they've invested into their people, and they said it's a huge cultural shift and change because they're union and corporate, and they used to fight all the time, big fighting. And now they told me, like, dude, our safety rate, we've never been this safe before. The last couple of years, our safety is continuing to improve. We have good relationships between union and corporate, and we're solving problems that we were never solving before. So for them, they're like, dude, the return on the investment is through the roof. They haven't had a fatality, which in that industry they usually do about every few years. It's unfortunate, but every few years. They haven't had one since 2018, bro, when we first started working with them.
Wow.
So if you can take that back and make your people safer, more efficient, and more effective, why would you not do it? Now, obviously, there's limits to budgets. We know that. That's why we do the individual ones. Cool. Send your key leaders to this 2-day one that we have in Dallas, and so we have a lot of different options. And the cool thing is that fake role play that I just did with you is I've had guys in that, literally that same role play that I did with you. I just used your name and not their name, where this one guy, he sent me an Instagram message 7 months later after the training. He's like, hey man, I just want to let you know, I literally review that workbook every day as like, hey, this is how I'm going to start my day. This is what I think about. He goes, and I just want to let you know, I'm a better husband. I'm a better father. And our business is $7 million above where it is projected to be.
Wow.
And I just want to say thank you. He goes, because I'm able to give more to my church, more to charities, more to my people for bonuses and everything else because of these principles. And I'm like, dude, that's awesome, man. He's like, thank you. I'm like, you're the one that did it, though. We just like, cool, thank you. I appreciate you thanking us. But at the end of the day, it's incredible, Ryan, when you hear the stories of these men and women that go back and implement these things. And, when I share how Amanda and I restored our marriage, I mean, we were divorced and we got our marriage back. And I share that story every time I do a training because it ties into the principles and what we teach. Man, I've had over a dozen people say, hey, man, I fixed my marriage. Thank you. Or, hey, my wife and I were going to get a divorce, and I just called her on the lunch break and told her, hey, when I come home, can we please sit down and reevaluate what's been going on? I realized here's all the mistakes I've made. Here's what I want to do to fix it. And this guy was in tears, literally big, huge, big, burly dude in tears. He goes, she wants to sit down and talk with me, and we're going to make this work. And I'm like giving the guy a hug. I'm crying. He's crying. I'm like, don't squeeze me and kill me, right? But it's just, bro, it's awesome, man. It's the things like that that's like, bro, I'll go do it again and again and again and again. And my wife is on board. My kids are on board, bro. I've been outside of COVID because COVID slowed us down, which was a great thing for me because I was able to get into some treatments that Mama Lee's Foundation, America's Mighty Warriors provided to me. I was able to get some HBOT treatment that I needed. But outside of that, man, I've been 3 to 5 cities a week every week. Mm-hmm. And my wife hasn't complained once, bro. I say that to people and they're like, really? Like, I mean, once, right? I'm like, no, not once. Like, bro, she has not complained one time about me being gone because she knows what we do. She sees the impact. I bring her to events as much as I can. I have my kids come to events. Like, they're bought in, man. And that's the thing that I learned from Echelon Front is when you can get your family bought in to the why and you give your family ownership over why you're doing things, you have an unstoppable team. It's just like you and your wife. Your wife is on board with all the crazy stuff you do. Mm-hmm. She loves you. She supports you. She's all in. And that's why you're able to be successful, which means that you're helping more people and you're providing more value. And when you can do that in your business and your company, by giving people buy-in, by giving them ownership, you're going to win. You're going to win every single day. And so at the end of the day, for me, it's like, all right, that little voice that creeps in, the devil that's trying to distract me and let complacency creep in, like I have to go to war with complacency every day because like it's there. He's knocking at the door, wanting to distract me, wanting to just pull me off the path. And it's like, no. I have to stay focused. I have to take care of myself, my family, my company, and I have to do this because if I don't do this, nobody else is going to. And I have to do this. And it's just an understanding that like, man, that complacency is knocking and I have to go to war with that complacency every day, man.
Well, I'll tell you what, one of the biggest things, I mean, thank you for sharing all this. What I love about Echelon Front is, and this is very difficult for most guys to do, is you get out and you take the skill sets that you learned and you can convert them and you can verbally convert those into selling points for yourself to a different company or into that company to add value to the company. And so being able to dissect what you've done in the military and then take those key points to help others outside of the military and show the real relationship between the two, it's incredible. So that's the hard work that you guys have preemptively done. And now you do get to change lives and you get to help influence things and make people better. This is pretty cool, man. I can't thank you enough. I honestly, I want to touch on this real quick. How do you keep it all together?
Yeah, good question. Is I have good friends and good leaders, Jocko and Leif. They're my friends, but they're my bosses. They're my bosses. And I know that. And I've always maintained that professional, hey, you're my boss. You're also two of my closest friends, but you're my boss. So I've always showed and maintained that respect. So implementing what we teach, which is doing honest self-assessments. And there are times where I failed to do honest self-assessments. And you've got to be careful because when you're doing fun stuff, it's addicting to go do more fun stuff. I have an addictive personality. So it's like, cool, I'm a part of this business. It's awesome. It's fun. We're solving problems. Boom, I got this other opportunity. Boom, and I get offers to sit on boards all the time. Hey, we'd love you to sit on our board of our company. We're going to give you some equity. And I'm like, I don't cool. That's awesome. Sounds great. But what's the requirements? And, okay, hey, cool. Run this stuff through Echelon Front. What's the requirements? And it's like, oh, we need this, and this from you. I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't commit to that. And they're like, yeah, but we're going to give you equity. And I'm like, oh, I appreciate that. But I'm telling you, I can't commit to that because I've got all these other priorities. I've got these other things. And it's because there have been times where I've committed to doing too many things. And fortunately, I have a good boss who's a good friend of mine, who's my brother, Leif Babin, who is willing and able to have that hard conversation and bring it to my awareness of like, hey, JP, like, do you think you might have some like too many things going on? He doesn't say you have too many things going on. He's doing it. He's asking me questions. Hey, do you, because it was cool because we had this conversation and he's like, hey man, do you have too many things going on? Like, what's your priorities? Because if you were to do an honest assessment of your time, where you put your time and where you put your time, that shows you what your priorities are. And are your priorities in alignment? And I was like, check. And just by him asking the question, I already knew the answer. Like the fact that he has to ask me that, that's a red flag. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you're doing it right. And I respect it. And damn it, I agree with you. And I just, and I had to look at what I was doing and what I was focused on and recognize, okay, I have too many things. I do. I have way too many things going on. What I'm going to throw back. And I gave up some equity opportunities in some companies. The Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu ministry that I'm a part of, from the get-go, I told those guys like, hey, I can't commit to a lot. Like I'll do the podcast with you guys when we can. Cause we have a Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu podcast and we do live events at different gyms. And I was like, I can't be at everything. I can't do this. And I was trying to do too much with them because I love it. It's a ministry. Like I love, we've literally had people receive salvation at our events and because of the podcast. So it's like, bro, you're growing the kingdom. That's huge. But I also recognize they don't need me for all those things. We've got a team. We've got literally a group of men and women that are on fire for God, that want to grow the kingdom, that want to help with ministry work. Let them go do it. They're capable, right? It should. And if the ministry needed me, that would be a problem because it's not about any of us. It's about God. And so what I had to do is like, hey guys, I've been doing too much. I can't commit to these things. Like, I'm sorry. And, and then also, having a conversation with Steven, and it was like, hey man, like, I know we're like trying to get the business in this place. This is awesome. I'm not going to be able to be as hands-on as I need to be. We need to figure out. And he's like, no, I get it. And it's not like Steven's not capable. He's very capable. I just stepped in to like, be like, hey, we need to make some drastic changes from my perspective. And also the business knowledge and background and experience that I have with previous business things and all the businesses I work with. Like I have a lot of business knowledge because I don't just go and talk about leadership. I sit and talk with these businesses and ask questions and find out their problems. That's how we solve their problems. We don't say, hey, this is what you need to do. We start asking questions. As we say, we pull the thread on it. Well, that gives me so much exposure to businesses. And so having that conversation with Steven and just us maintaining alignment. So boom, all right, throttle back a little bit here. And same thing with On the Path. I'm not printing t-shirts, man. Like I'm not, like create some SOPs, some training. Cool. Josh is the one who's doing that stuff. We have another guy who's probably going to step in and start doing those things. Awesome. So it's just the understanding, like I failed to do honest time assessments and time audits of myself. And I was doing too much stuff because I had an event that fell on a day and a time that I was supposed to have an alignment call with Leif. And which no factor, it's like, cool. Like he has stuff that falls on that, boom, we don't do it. But I didn't cancel the meeting. I didn't send him an email saying I'm not going to be a part of it. Now he has access to look at my calendar. He can look at my calendar and say, oh, that's why JP didn't join the call. But is that what Leif Babin should be doing? Yeah. If I don't join our Zoom call because I'm meeting with a company for Echelon Front stuff, what should have happened? Well, the night before or the day before or the week before, when I knew I wasn't going to be able to do that, I should have been looking at my calendar and saying, oh, I'm double booked right here. I can't meet with Leif at 8 a.m. on Zoom. Could I meet at 7 a.m.? Could Leif meet at 7 a.m., right? All I had to have done was literally edit that meeting, canceled it for the week, and sent an email saying, hey, boss, I got double booked. Here's my options. Do those work for you? and then add in and CC Justin and Josh, who run my calendars now. And guess what they would have done? Hey, boss, I got this for you. And they would have found a time for Leif and I. You know what I mean? Like, it's freaking stupid. I missed a call with Leif and I didn't even communicate to him about it. You know how embarrassing that is? And that prompted the conversation that Leif had with me. Like, hey, man, you might have some shit going on that maybe you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
He didn't say that, but, that's the way I took it, because I'm like, bro, this is an embarrassing conversation that I never wanted to have. But, man, I'm a human. I'm flawed, man. I make mistakes. And, it's embarrassing that I got and, the other thing I told Leif, and this is something that we can talk about offline, is I told him, I'm like, hey, man, I want you to know, like, the times I failed to respond to you in a timely manner, or Dave or Jamie or Jocko or anybody else, or when I've forgotten to do things, not once has it ever been intentional. And he goes, no, I know that. And I said, no, I want you to know, like, it's because, like, I legitimately don't remember to do things. Like, I have headaches that creep in and migraines, and I know that it's an excuse, but it's legitimate things that happen that I forget. It's not once I've ever been like, cool, I'm going to call Leif. I'll remember to call you at 1 a.m. when I can't sleep at night. And I'm like, oh, shoot, I didn't call Leif. And then I forget to put a reminder in my phone, or I'll put a reminder in my phone, but the reminder goes off while I'm on a Zoom call. I was like, hey, man. And he goes, okay. He goes, so this is to the point of having too many things going on. But there's also the other aspect of, like, okay, I've got to figure out, like, why am I forgetting to do stuff? And if it's because of stuff that I can get squared away and fixed, cool. If it's not, then now I have to create new SOPs for myself of just remembering to do stuff. Because, I mean, with TBIs, as you know, more than most, it affects memory, and headaches come from that and stuff like that. So that's been another fun thing that's been happening.
No,
So,
I mean, I get it.
It's a real thing. But it's an excuse. At the end of the day, it's a workable situation.
Yeah.
I've just got to find a way to make it work. And when I go back to what we teach, cover and move, simple, prioritize and execute, decentralized command, extreme ownership, and the other mindsets of victory, if I do those things and I implement those things, then I tend to solve those problems. Yeah. It's when I stop doing what we teach is when I let those things start to arise.
That makes sense, man. But in the physiological stuff that you talk about, I mean, TBI is very real, and it's great. It's getting a lot of press now, and there's ways that we can go actually combat that. And so I'm glad that you're actually getting it done, because there's a lot of things. This is something I say all the time. Is like, if a veteran's struggling today, they might not just want help, because there's plenty of help out there. It's everywhere. There's all focus on every part of it: the mind, the body, the soul, spirit. I mean, every part of it that you need help. They can fill your cup. It's just, you got to go out there, jump online, check it out. So
ultimately, it's just, I need to make it a priority.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's what
absolutely.
It is.
100%.
Well, bro, I appreciate the opportunity to be on your show, man. This is awesome. Long time coming. But so I guess I'm going to have to do a jump, huh?
Yep, we're doing a jump. Again, I told you, we get so much credit for jumping, and I'm like, you know what? I look at the logic of this, because, like, for me, it's like, how do I squash ego anytime I can in myself? And I'm not like a pro jumper or anything. I just jump. But when I'm looking at it, I'm like, God, I'm getting credit for being like this crazy, skydiver, base jump or whatever. I'm like, it's purely just falling. It is the easiest sport in the world until it goes wrong, right? So I'm like, I can't be taking credit for something that just literally anybody on the earth can do. And so with that, I'll leave you that we are going to jump. We're going to do it soon. I'm going to prioritize getting us on the books to make a jump. With that being said, you got JP Dinnell here. A couple things I want you to go check out before we leave. Make sure you go check out echelonfront.com, littlecattle.co, and jpdinnell.com. And as always, go check out transcendcompany.com/Birdman. Go start your health and wellness journey today. Brother, I love you, man. Super honored to have you. Can't wait to do your podcast and then skydive and skateboard.
Let's go.
Frogman.